Yeah, I'm live again. I'm back. I told you guys I would be back. That's what happens when I got to try to move my computer and yank out the camera plug, like yank out the USB for the camera. That's not good. So we'll get some peeps back and see what's going on. We'll take a walk over and we'll take a walk inside the engine dyno and take a look at the right in the middle of a cam swap. So I just ran the racing or the trick flow stage 2 cam for the 5-liter Mustang, and then now I have 3 different Summit cams, and we're going to run all of those. I don't know if I'll get all those done tonight, but we'll do what we can. So I have Summit's versions. I don't know what they're calling them, if it's a B303 plus and an E303 plus and a F303 plus. So I have those cams, and we're going to run them on the 5-liter and see how they compare, because I also have the original version. So I'm going to run the factory 5-liter cam. We'll run the B, E, and F original ones, and then we'll run the Summit versions of those. And then I also have a trick flow stage 2 cam, and we'll be able to compare all of that stuff. I don't think all of that's going to be in one video. And the interesting thing I'm going to do is I'll do part 1, and we're doing that carbureted. So I'm doing that with a dual plane carbureted combination. And then I'm going to follow that up and do a similar test, but we'll do it fuel injected. So guys will like the fuel injected stuff. So we'll be able to run something, with something that you might find more likely under the hood of a 5-liter Mustang or T-Bird or whatever anybody else would have as a 5-liter, GT40 or Cobra, those kinds of things. So we'll run something like that. And I may even run it on a combination that has like a GT40 head instead of the aluminum head. Because, if you go to the wrecking yard and get something, you're obviously not going to go get an aluminum head. A lot of guys, though, would definitely go get the GT40 head or GT40P head and upgrade their factory head because of, let's face it, an E7TE head. It's not a great head. It's not a great one to begin with. And even a GT40 from an Explorer and the Explorer manifold, which I'm also going to test. So I'm going to do a shootout also coming up, and I'm going to compare the GT40, the Cobra, the SN95 version of that, and then the Explorer manifold, and we'll compare all those. So that'll be some good stuff. Because honestly, for that thing, I think we're going to kind of be nitpicking stuff. But again, people wanted to know, is that because I know guys are paying money for the tubular GT40 stuff. Is it better? I mean, it's definitely lighter than all of the other cast aluminum pieces. So that will be an interesting test. So let's take a walk in, and I promise not to destroy everything like I did last time here. So let's take a walk in, and we'll take a look at the 5-liter. Maybe we can. Maybe we'll go over here, and I'll see if the 2J is still. Maybe we can at least take a look under the hood or something, because it's kind of cool stuff. Try to shut me out. I will not be denied. Hey, Ish.
What's up, man?
Can we take a look under the hood of that 2J? Got my peeps.
Oh, man. They're all pretty.
Yeah. There we go. See?
All right, how long is the wait?
Yeah.
No sheet metal manifold, because we'll blow the welds off the intake, so they ain't no welds to blow off of this.
Yeah. No diamond plate welds.
Nope.
Cool. So you guys are gonna. What's gonna happen? Are you gonna have to change the exhaust manifold or something? I mean,
We're gonna have to place another wastegate in a different location of the
so you can run 2
manifold.
of them then?
Yeah, run
Okay.
2 of them.
Okay, cool.
Because boost is just running way unmanageable.
Okay, and what size turbo is this thing have?
What did he say? It's 70 millimeter?
Oh, okay. And this thing's all built, right? It's got forged internals and stuff.
Yeah, it's got
forged head,
Manley
cams.
I-beam CP pistons, Brian Crowder.
Oh, Brian Crowder cams. Okay.
Yeah, it's got good stuff.
Oh, cool.
It's a clean install.
Oh yeah. And then what are you guys gonna? Are you guys gonna run on E85 eventually?
Flex fuel.
Flex fuel.
So it's gonna be pump gas and E85.
Yeah, but when you guys run it and turn the boost up, it'll be on E85 though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Sweet. And it still has VVT?
Yep.
Okay,
Still
cool.
has it.
Yeah, all VVT up in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
It's a race car.
I know, look at it.
You want that torque.
Yeah. That's a street tire, right?
VMS racing wheel.
Yeah. It's a street tire. Totally a street tire. It's cool. And it's all blacked out. It's all stealth mode. Super stealth mode. Uh-oh. Got to plug back in. I didn't charge my thing up enough. So I'll take a walk back over here real quick like. Okay, come on, baby, don't die on me. Okay, just in the nick of time. There we go. So that's our 5-liter Ford. I'm just getting ready to take the front cover off. Got the blueprint as cast heads. Got our spider assembly all on there. We'll take a walk up there as soon as we get charged back up a little bit. Got our intake manifold and carburetor off. Got these fancy composite valve covers. Does anybody remember these? I think Hartman used to make them originally, and then these were Comp Cam's versions. So let's see, can you get that? Yeah, that's one of the Summit cams. One of the 5-liter deals. Swapping that in, taking the stage 2 out. Gotta have that. Gotta have the big old. Gotta have the big. Let's get all the lifters pulled up out of the way. They won't come all the way out on the 302. At least they don't seem to be with these heads. I might be able to rock them over a little bit, but it doesn't seem like they want to come out. There's no little valley underneath there to pull them up out. But I got all the bolts out here. All I have to do now is loosen the pan. I can get the front cover off and then swap that cam out and then run the next test. This one was set up with, so you got beehive springs on there. Guide plates. Rocker studs, rocker studleys. It's all working out good. So it'll be interesting to see. I haven't run. I was looking at trying to look back at the data that I have, and the let's see if we can. That's gonna work. Yeah, it'll work out okay. I was looking back at the data that I had, and I haven't run a B303 cam and compared it back when I did a cam swap a long time ago. That was like eight or so different 5-liter cams, and we had the B303 and the E303. I think we might have even had an X if I remember right, because I remember having to notch the pistons. And we had a bunch of different cams that we ran, and I don't think I've run them since then. And I can't even find the data. That's how far back it is. So that means it's like it's got to be 20 plus years ago that I did that test. So it's time for me to find out what. How that B compares to an E and the F. And then, the stage 2 is a little bit more modern design. It's more like that extreme energy cam. And the other thing that's interesting about these is going to be that all of these camshafts, like the Ford Racing ones, they're all single pattern cams. And so like this one, the stage 2, obviously is a dual pattern cam. So it will be an interesting comparison because we have, 220, a 224, and a 226 single pattern cams, and then we have this 224, 232 dual pattern, and then we have the factory cam. So and then we have the Ford Racing versions, and then the Summit versions. So it'll be a lot of good information, and I think guys will like the fact that I'm doing this carbureted now because this is the way that the motor was set up, and I basically have this weekend to try to get this done. So I've got to try to get through as many as I can. I would like to run it fuel injected if I can, but I honestly don't think that there's going to be time. So we'll have to set that up next time. But if I do both, if I do it so that it's, you know, we go through all the camshafts and you guys can kind of see the power differences in the video, and then I do it later on as an EFI deal, because I think what's going to happen, and you guys probably already know this, but what's probably going to happen is that, you know, when you test something, whether it's a cylinder head or intake manifold or camshaft, the more powerful the combination you test it on, the greater the gains are going to be that you get. So I think what's going to happen is, if we test it on like a 400 horsepower motor, which this thing with the right cam, it has already made like 415 or 417. So it did, let's see, yeah, 417. So it did good. But I think what happens if we put a combination together that has a 5-liter short block with a GT40 head or a GT40P head, and then has one of the GT40 or the Cobra or any of those manifolds on it, I think we're going to knock that thing down to 340 or 350. And so that if we're doing the camshaft test on a motor that makes that power, irrespective of the fact that it's fuel injected or whatever, it's just that combination is not going to respond to the camshafts quite as well as something that's making more power. So I think we'll see a bigger difference on something that makes more power, and that's probably what will happen with the fuel injected deal. But I think that the fuel injected thing is going to be important, because I think guys are going to want to see that. So it'll be important to do. And if you're looking at doing it in a 5-liter, obviously you're 99% of the people would obviously have some sort of fuel injection on it. So we'll run that on there. It'll be good. And I haven't run a Fuelie Ford in a couple of years, so it's, you know, it's time. Okay. Oh, I want to show you, and you can kind of get an idea here, a little sneak peek of what's going to happen in the video with the header too. Take a look at the big dip down low there. See that? Everybody see that? Everybody say yes. Everybody say, yeah, Rich, I see that. I understand. That big dip, and then not having the big dip, yeah, that's the collector extension. That's how much of a difference it made. Okay, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. So we'll see our collector extension. You can see the part that was the header, like the header ended like, you know, right here. And then I added that to it. It's just a slip. I just hammered it on there. It made a lot of power. It made a whole bunch of power. So that's more of those magic scavenging and reflected waves that we talk about so much, that everybody loves. So we know how well they work. Get all set up again here. So it's awesome to be back down to West Tech again, to see my guys, you know, see Troy and Ish and Eric, and obviously Steve Marino, Mr. Roulette. It's always good and Rick. I got to see Rick today, so it was awesome to see everybody. It's nice to get down and visit, and it's, you know, it's like 80 degrees today, so it was beautiful. That's what I've got going on tonight. So I've got cam swaps and cam swaps and cam swaps, but it'll be really good information. So it'll be interesting to see how all those play out. I'm kind of curious to see what the difference in two things. One, the single pattern versus a dual pattern stuff of comparable intake duration. And we've kind of done that test before, and I want to see if it plays out the same. And also, I'm curious to see how much of a difference the B303 and the E303 and the F303, how much of a difference in power, or where that difference in power might be on a motor like this. I'm curious to see if there is a big difference, and if there is one going to make more power down low or up top, or how are they going to split? It'll kind of be an interesting deal, and it will also be interesting to find out if, with comparable intake duration, will the single pattern cam make more power down low than the dual pattern does? That'll be good stuff. All right, so let's see what you guys got going on. Is it true that stock 302 blocks crack? People have cracked them. I don't think that they all do. I hate porting iron heads. Yes. Can you take EEC4 GT40P CPU with 24-pound injectors and switch them to 32-pound injectors? I reduced the base fuel pressure to 30 from 40. The math looks good if you use an 8-to-1 FMU. From 24 to 30 is going to be 8 pounds. So that's 30%. The same drop 10 if you go down 10 psi from 30, you're thinking that that's like a 33% change, but you don't get the same change in fuel pressure. From the fuel pressure, you don't get that linear change from fuel pressure that you do from going to the injector size. So you get less of a change from the fuel pressure than you will from the injector, from going from a 24 to a 32. Have you ever tested a 351 with a GT40 intake? I don't think I've run a 351 with that. We have run 347s with it. So it'd be maybe similar.
My sister, the one that lives in Arizona, wants me to come down.
I wonder if you can use an 8-into-1 header to help stop the Ford from splitting. So we're using the header as a structural element. Have you tested painted collector extensions, cut off at the burn? I haven't done that, no. In your opinion, how much will the XXX block hold safely? I'm not familiar with that block. Any boost for an F303? They're all turbo cam, so they would all do the same thing that they do NA. Is the 4.8 versus 5.3 ring wear guy back up? Yeah, probably so. Visor had said all the Ford 303 cams are sad. I don't know if David's actually dyno tested those, or if he's going by his algorithm that he uses. Is it worth messing with upgrading rod bolts on a stock bottom end 302 heads cam and intake and boost? I don't think we got to the limit of factory rod bolts. It's a pretty common thing for guys to do, but again, I like the LS. I don't know if that's the weak point. What size are the valves in the head you're using? I think that they're a 20216, if I remember right. Would you trust a stock LS3 fuel pump to handle flex fuel? I would, especially if you're alternating between the two. Yeah, Randall, I'm familiar with the paint thing. I think that the hot rod, the guys from Hot Rod and Engine Masters, I think did that. But I would like to correlate that with the dyno, though. Do you have a set of 462 valve heads? I do not. The interesting thing that people are worried about the collector extension, the collector length extension, is that after you extend it so far, it doesn't do anything. It still does what it did. It added that power, but then it doesn't hurt power anywhere else. Like this change didn't hurt power up at the top. So it's only good. There's no bad part. So it really doesn't matter how long you make it after you make it a certain length. Dan, have you actually tested step headers, and was a step header like we normally see in your testing? Was it application specific? Because we have step headers for the Ford, I think, and I kind of would like to try them and see if it's worthwhile. But I don't know that they're going to be on a mild application like this. Can you do some high RPM stuff? There's the 8,000 RPM hydraulic roller video up, and one for a Ford and one for an LS. So both of those are up there. Big cam and a stock bottom end 454 is going to blow up. So are you talking about when the valves hit the pistons that it's going to blow up? The exhaust back pressure, the collector extension length doesn't change back pressure. It changes scavenging. It changes a reflected wave. It helps scavenge exhaust out, but more importantly, it draws inlet charge in. I love my Extreme Energy 274. It really is a good little cam for the 302 stuff. And it's a good cam in a 347 or a 351 also if you're leaning more toward the drivability side. They make good power, but if you're leaning more toward the drivability side, they make for a really good one. I've put a couple of those in guys that had Kit Cobras in bigger displacement motors, and they really liked them because the car had way more power than they wanted to use anyway. So they like just stomping on the gas and having it go, and it did, but it also could drive around and stuff because they were cars and coffee guys. I understand that standard imperial math on horsepower torque converters at 5250. Any instances where it does not? It's not. It has to because that's the mathematical formula for the two. So they will always converge there. So Dean, you think there's going to be more power with the more modern Ford hydraulic roller cams? Formula One uses stepped headers on the turbo engines. Well, then it must be true, right? I ain't no punk. Yeah, you did lose me. I was gone. I pulled the camera feed out, unfortunately, instead of the power. I actually pulled both of them out, but and you can't pull it out and plug it back in. The YouTube won't let you do that. It gets angry. Do you know the part number for the 4.6 valve 268 PI cams? No, but if you plug that into a Google search, it will tell you what the part number is. Kurt, if you can find an injector that flows the same as a 24 at 40 psi at 30, and the math is online to tell you what the percentage change is going to be going from 40 psi to 30 psi, what the change in flow rate is going to be of any given injector. That math is available online, so you can see what the percentage is. It's just simple math. And then once you find that out, then you can that would be a good starting point. The other thing that happens is that people don't realize when you're tuning, this is very important, is the slope of the injector too. Just because one flows, you're not concerned with the maximum flow rate normally. You're concerned with how it comes up and how it's doing in the middle part and how it's doing at the beginning. You do more of that than you do at wide open throttle at the top of the injector flow rate. So there's less concern there. So you need to be concerned with all of that. And usually unless you have a mass error recalibrated for that, it usually requires tuning. It's hard to get it exactly right. Richard, do you have any experience with a GM 2.3 Quad 4? I don't. I really like them. I've driven some. I've raced some, road raced a few of them, but I've never done any performance mods to them. Yeah, JB, I was sitting here talking to myself. Although I think people could still, I think the audio was still there, but the image was not there. It was just just me off talking. Are electronic boost controllers worth it? Yeah, they are if you're going to be taking advantage of what they have to offer. Where are you going to test a Summit 303 cam? Here on the dyno. Is it even feasible to put 706, 862 heads on an LQ4 if you want to stay on 87 octane? Yeah, you still can. You're going to have to take timing out of it. And I don't know which one would be better. You know, your 317 head with more timing on 87 octane seems like an odd thing, but it would be interesting. I would be curious to see which one of those would get better fuel mileage. When it comes to boost applications, do you prefer turbo or blower? If that question is to me, I run all of them, so it doesn't matter to me. They do different things, and you get to choose what you want to do with your combination. I just test them all, and then you get to pick. You're down there and didn't even go to Winter Nationals. I can't go do stuff like that. I have to work. I work for a living. Yeah, KD, you have a stock bottom end turbo 454. I'm going to push it 20 to 25 pounds. I don't. Okay, the boost thing, I don't understand. I mean, I understand that you need to run boost on it, but I don't know why you would pick that. You should pick a power number. A stock bottom end Gen 6, we know will go way into 4-digit power numbers. So they're pretty good right from the wrecking yard. I don't know what that limit is, but it's pretty far up there. It's a lot farther than people seem to think. I ain't no punk. You need a fuel pump? Oh, an S475. So I don't know. I'd have to look and see. I'd have to look that up and see what kind of pump you'd need. I think 2 342s would probably do it. Dan, I haven't seen any information on the on Winter Nationals. Are you doing a live dyno? I can't do a live dyno tonight because the motor's all apart. There isn't time for me to be able to do that. I'm going to do the live feed, and then I'll have to get back to taking it the rest of the way apart. So I'm right in the middle of it. I've got to drop the pan, pull the front cover the rest of the way off, swap the cam, then put it all back together and get it running again. And that's going to, on a Ford, it's a little more involved than it is on an LS. Austin, that's a good torque number for those. And the OEM stuff can get away with a lot of stuff. They use generally really small responsive turbos because they want the little motor. What they're trying to do is make the little motor feel a lot more like what guys are used to, and we're used to having big motors, V8s. And so they want that small boosted motor to feel like that, and that's why they're doing all that torque down low. They're amazing. I know my wife's. I think hers is a 2-liter turbo in our Mercedes, and it runs 20 pounds. So it feels pretty torquey. It feels like a big motor. Shane, how am I going to have a 50-year-old son? An LQ4, 799 heads, and the BTR truck Norris cam. If you take a look up at the video that I have lots of 6-liter stuff run. I have some tests run with 799 heads, and you can probably get a pretty good idea from that. When does the 2.2 go back together? As soon as I get it back, it's not back from the machine shop yet. What are your thoughts on the 20511Rs? They're really good. That's a really good small block cam. How are you running all cams? They're just going in with the thing lined up dot to dot. I'm not degreeing them or anything. There's not time for that. I know we're only we're less than 50% on the like ratio. I know Punk Richard, are those pumps in the tank? Yeah, you can get 342s in the tank. You can get lots of. I don't know what application this was. I can't remember what the vehicle was, but they have drop-in stuff for lots of different fuel pumps. I mean, lots of different fuel tanks, and so they have whole assembly units that have the sending units for your gauge and all kinds of stuff. So you can get singles and duals and triples. We're putting my buddy Jimmy. We're putting a new fuel pump in his NSX because he ran out of fuel on the dyno because the thing's making like 600 at the tire, and needs more fuel pump. And it's a J series. It's even better. Steve, thank you very much. Largest but still streetable cam for a 6-liter with rec port heads. I want power everywhere, not just above 6,000. I'm leaning toward a BTR 229. That's sized pretty good. I might even go a little smaller than that. But all of those cams are, the cam that you put in a rec port motor is primarily going to improve the power up at the top. I say that, but the thing is that it depends on what cam you're comparing it to, because an LS3 cam or an LS9 cam or an LSA cam, those are already soft down low compared to like a truck cam. So when we're comparing cams and we compare like a 5.3 or 4.8 or even a 6.0, and if we can't compare it to the factory LM7 cam, that's the best low speed cam. That makes a lot more low speed power than all the rest of them. An LS3 is going to be way down, and so is not way down, but it's going to be down low, and so is an LS9 is going to be down a lot through most of the curve compared to that camshaft. It'll be up at the top. But so it depends on what you compare it to. A 229 is pretty good. 227, 229 in there is pretty good for a 6-liter. A lot of guys want me to run that Truck Norris cam on a 6-liter. I think it would do pretty well. Although I think it's some guys might think that it's a little small, but I think it would be a good combination. Aeromotive has drop-ins. Holley makes a bunch of drop-ins. Will GT45 T4 work on my 93.53 TBI? Yeah, it probably will, because you're going to have to, the thing that you're going to worry about with the turbo is getting enough fuel to your throttle body. I've run lots of big blocks from wrecking yards and never heard a bearing. So I don't know what all this, a universal statement that big blocks eat bearings is not accurate. There are big blocks out there, I know because I get them from the wrecking yard. There are big blocks out there that have hundreds of thousands of miles. And so a big block does not hurt bearings. A Buick does not hurt bearings. A Cleveland does not hurt bearings. There are lots of motors out there that have run hundreds of thousands of miles and not hurt stuff. So you cannot say that those two things are directly correlated. You can say that guys that are trying to race them and run more RPM than they should, or don't have it clean, or don't have good oil, or other whatever problems they have, that has the potential to do that. But they all don't do that, because all I have to do is run one and have that not happen. Then we cannot use the word all. So important lesson for tonight. Rocket, what heads do you recommend for a 6-liter board out to a 6.2? That's a little iffy situation there, but if you feel comfortable with it, the best factory head would be a Recport head. That will make the most power, or any of the 100 or so aftermarket ported CNC heads will work, or even CNC ported factory heads will work good also. Yeah, Mike, I know that you're trying to defend your position, but the reality is that if I go get a motor from the wrecking yard that has several 100,000 miles, it's already proven that it doesn't hurt bearings. And then I put it on the dyno. So I didn't have to prove anything on the dyno. It's already proven that it doesn't hurt bearings just by being a big block. I don't have to do that, and I'm not doing it on the dyno. And running 500, 600, 700 dyno pulls does show a lot, actually. You're a dyno guy. I know. I've never done any like endurance road racing or set land speed records or any of that stuff, right? I'm also an American Ninja Warrior. We've hurt lots of motors on the dyno. I have. Have you ever run the Sniper EFI 4150 blow through setup on the dyno? I don't think that I have. Thinking about switching from a CSU blow through carb to the Sniper. I don't think I have. I'm looking around it to see. I don't remember doing that. Yes on the Ninja Warrior question. Some people can break a crowbar in a sandbox. My dad used to tell us that we would break steel ball bearings with a rubber mallet or something. That's how talented we were. What about transmissions? I'm not a transmission guy. If it's a turbo 350 with a shift kit in it, I'm your guy. But beyond that, I might be able to do a 400 with a shift kit. Offshore boat racing will definitely test the build quality or whether it's working. That's one area where you're at wide open throttle loading the motor for a long time, and if it's offshore, you're jumping it too, then coming off the throttle and then back on the throttle, and that's a hard life. Please show a blow through turbo setup. I have a video up already. We've done blow through carbureted stuff a lot. An offshore tunnel ram 460 in your lowrider, nice. Is it a six deuce Impala? Does it have hydraulics on it? Because if it is, I seriously want to ride in that. Should a VS 7875 turbo do similarly on a small block Ford 360 as it does on a 6-liter? Yeah, probably so. I don't know if the 363 is set up and it has the same. Does it have good heads and camshaft and all that stuff? But obviously the displacement is very similar. Cam upgrade worthwhile. Boss 302, B303, GT40 aluminum, RPM 2 Vortec. A B303 is not a great combination for that, or not a great head for that. But I don't know where you are in terms of the blower. If you've already topped out the blower, then I don't know that you're going to get a whole bunch more. All I liked about my Turbo 350 is that it had shift kit in it and then it would chirp second. That's all I cared about, because that was the sign that your car was fast. Getaway, what carb would you use for a blow-through setup in a junkyard 454 to make 1,000 horsepower at the flywheel? We use a CSU 850 because it's one that we have off the shelf. There are probably other ones, Quick Fuel, and there are some other guys that make them. It doesn't take a really big carburetor to do 1,000 horsepower on a blow-through. NASCAR tracks were kind of hard on motors too, yeah. Something about running like 9,500 RPM for a few hundred miles. Break an anvil with a picture of a feather. Wow, not even just a feather, but the feather app. Yeah, a dyno load, if we run like when we're making a pull from 2,500, 6,500, if you're making it 300 RPM per second, you can do the math on that and see what kind of quarter mile run that would be. It's not shifting and stuff. And the thing that breaks them when you're racing is usually the leave or the tune. My best friend was over the other night. He said he'd never been in a 1,000 horsepower street legal car. You just be careful in that. 1,000 horsepower in a car out on the street is a lot. Could you describe a great small block tow motor? Yeah, for if I was doing a small block and I had it in a truck and I was going to use it to tow something, it would be a large displacement one. The bigger, the better for towing. So you could do a 400 or 406 or even a 383, and then it would be I'd like to use a good head on it and a small cam and a dual plane intake. Yeah. Oh, the Catalina ski races, those were cool. Yeah, marine application does have lots of cooling, that's for sure. There's no shortage of that. But if you look at guys that have river boats, especially too, not so probably offshore too, I would imagine. But how often are you in your car running at wide open throttle for like minutes at a time? most people that even guys that do serious drag racing don't do that. When can you run for minutes at a time at wide open throttle? Nobody does that. I mean, I've done that at Silver State, and guys do that in boats, but not very many people do that in cars. Emeryville to the Farallon Islands. That's a long haul. I've been to the Farallon Islands, and that's a little bit of a trip. I went out there to go shark diving, to go cage diving for great whites, and I saw nothing except jellyfish and plankton and cold water. Gen 2 LT1 with a Pro Charger, forged bottom end, 10.10.5 to 1. The boost is going to be a function of your intercooling and your timing and your octane. Yeah, Dan, the Clevelands did really well in NHRA Superstock. That's a really good head. That's probably the best factory head, certainly factory small block head that I know of. I know that they used to, when they were running them in cup motors way back, I know that they were posting the heads. And I remember reading about that. You know, they're sectioning off the back exhaust and changing and raising the port. But I also like the fact that they were drilling them and posting them to put supports in there so that the structure of the head would be greater for running. And the way that a lot of people don't realize that they think it's just heat or whatever, but it's also the frequency of the motor. Things don't like to be shaken at a given frequency for long periods of time. According to CSU, the internet mods that are typically performed on a Holley double pumper for blow-through applications. Are you talking about somebody doing something themselves? Because the CSU stuff, we know we go way over that. But if you're talking about homemade stuff, I guess I don't know. I've never tried to do a blow-through carburetor. We just get the ones that do that already. Plankton, 100%, 1% evil. He is. But if he only had the formula, then it'd be 100%. Yeah, Randall, I've seen some of those blown big blocks, 1,350 horsepower running for 100 hours. That's pretty impressive stuff. Oh, by the way, my buddy, before I forget, my buddy Jimmy Hiddle is going to be starting his YouTube channel, so I'll make sure to post all that stuff up. But he just did a video for me today of making some hits on the street in his J Series powered NSX, and it's pretty impressive stuff. He's going to be going to the track, and I honestly think that this thing's going to go. I bet this thing goes tens, just like on his first hit. I bet it goes tens. And at like very low boost level, like 12 or 13 pounds or something. Shane, you drive wide open throttle every time I drive down Lakeshore Boulevard through Chicago? That'd be really fast. Oh, Chris, so you guys saw a blue whale from the air flying over the Farallones? I'm surprised you didn't see white sharks. They're out there, and they have big ones out there too. Oh, what CSU means that after 700 horsepower, the blow through, you typically have to have a purpose-built carburetor. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because we've run lots of stuff, or not lots of stuff. Some things where we've just run carburetors on there. Like when I did the turbo on the 292, we just put that 5512 2-barrel Holly on there and just jetted it up and then hope for the best. Casey at 427 Ford with Le Mans crank and rods were almost bulletproof. I mean, I think bulletproof is a stretch, but obviously if you have the Holman and Moody guys and the stuff that they were doing back in the Ford GT program, if you're running at Le Mans and you're running 3,000 miles on a road race course, that's pretty impressive, especially for a motor that big. And as we saw in the movie, they were running them at 7,000 RPM. Roman, you could probably use a 2500 stall converter with a 233 cam. Oh, David, you live in Fairfield. That's right down the road. Can you estimate horsepower by pounds of fuel flow on a Terminator X? Sure, that can give you a rough idea, but you don't really know the brake specific, and you don't know how much airflow it is, and I guess you probably have the air fuel mixture, so you could get a better idea. A hot mess. Hey, Richard, what do you recommend for a standalone on a big block with boost and EFI? I don't know what you mean. What do I recommend? Are you talking about camshaft or cylinder heads or turbos or what EFI system? I don't know which question you're asking. 455 with a cam, intake, and steak sauce, all on a summer day. Well, you obviously forgot the frosty cold beverage, as that's a critical element for summertime. Richard, when you installed 262s on the 464 valve, did you degree them? Yeah, I did a video. I don't know if I did the video on it. We did a story on degreeing them, because when we put them in, Mahovitz was saying how far off they could be, and they were, I want to say somewhere in the 12 to 13 degrees off from side to side. But he's the one that showed me what needed to be done in terms of making sure that they were right, because there was a big change. And there was a big change in power, because we ran them the way that they were, and then we ran them after we degreed them, and there was a change in power by degreeing them. How about a Chevy LQ1? What is a Chevy LQ1? Yeah, this is a nice tool chest setup. He's asking about EFI systems. I'm limited in EFIs. I have 3 of them that I've used basically. I take that back. I have used Honda also on the Bonneville car. But other than that, it's a Holley HP, which would be similar to a Terminator X, I guess, and a Dominator too, but they're the same thing really. And then the Fast and the Mega Squirt on the 4200. I don't think that there needs to be continued discussion about big blocks and RPM. I think we should put that to the side. The nice thing about having a bigger motor is you don't have to rev it. If you have a K-Series Honda that runs to 8,000, that's fantastic. If you have a motor that's 454 inches, you don't have to run it to 8,000. There's no reason to do that, because it'll make good power at 6,000 or 7 or 7,500. And that's why you make bigger motors. And that's also why you make boosted motors. Although guys like to combine boost and RPM, as we're finding out with that J series. Jimmy, I know, was concerned on the J series that because it came out of it makes peak power at like 6,000 or so in the application that it was in. And the NSX obviously makes peak power much higher than that, 7,200 or something like that, if I remember right. And so he was concerned that this motor was just not going to rev and not make any power. That's why he's already having cams done for it. And then as it turns out, having that motor in a rising boost curve works wonders, and it's still wanting to keep pulling. So it's going to be really impressive. I think I'm looking forward to doing a bunch of stuff with him. It's a little weird. It's a weird little 3.4 liter with double overhead cam. The twin dual cam stuff, I'm familiar with that one. So you want to go distributorless? That's not a bad idea. Having individual coils, I mean, helps, especially if you can adjust the dwell on it like you can with the LS stuff on the Holly. I think that probably helps. In the 1,000 horsepower range or what, probably beyond that. I've seen lots of guys do it with distributors and single coils. Although, in my opinion, a multi-coil deal would be a better way to go. When you ran the Magna with nitrous, what size did you run? I'm curious how well a stock bottom end can handle a wet 100 horsepower shot and possibly 150. That motor makes enough power to run either one of those. So you can certainly run 150 horsepower with a nitrous on that. Yeah, I think what's a pro stock motor run to? And I think that they would run higher if they would allow them, right? Are they probably limited? Yeah, we've done 1,000 horsepower big blocks from the wrecking yard with just ring gap. If you put a cam and springs and boost on it, it will definitely do 1,000 horsepower. Yeah, Shane, it's not too much fun if it's 20 degrees out there. I wouldn't want to be out there working underneath the car. Uh-oh, Lisa's joining the chat, talking about stock bottom ends. When you are doing ring gap on junkyard motors, are you installing new rings? No, usually we just gap the ones that are there, because why would you buy new rings if you're just, you're kind of trying to blow it up? Pro stock is limited to 10,500. Yeah, that's a lot. Who is Lisa? Exactly. I know that girl. How you doing? Hey, everybody say hi to Lisa. Mrs. H. Oh, so you got a wood stove? Yeah, that helps a lot. We have a pellet fireplace, and that's on all the time. When it's, because it gets really cold. It can get all the way down like the low 60s. It gets colder where we're in Northern California, so it gets cold. But Casey, wow, throw me under the bus. Sometimes he doesn't even put them back on the same piston. Sometimes I don't. I mean, do they really care? We swapped pistons when we did the piston flip thing, and the ring and the piston went in the other cylinder, and it still made exactly the same power. So at the very least, we can tell you that there's absolutely nothing to ring seal. Now I'm sure that's going to go viral. Yeah, you do get frost in Northern California. We come out and there's frost on the windshields and stuff, and we have gotten snow where we are too. See, Lisa's getting highs from Australia. She's international. She's a big deal. The guys from West Tech, somebody mentioned the 396. The West Tech guys just shipped out, or maybe it's still here. They were crating up a 396 that they were sending off to somebody that one of the guys that they did some work on or something. There's something to low tension rings. Yeah, there's something to rings. There's a lot to ring seal. But when everything's already sealed, they work, right? I get it, Dean. I got you. I got your wood stove. .396 2-barrel. No, this one is a factory 4-barrel, I think. Let's see. I think it was. I wish I had it. I'm building a 396, and that would be another one. 11,000 3mm rings. Yeah, that's pretty tight. Ooh, currently where I am, it's 11 degrees with a wind chill 3 degrees. I guess you win. Curious what the stock air-fuel ratio is on a 5.3. My Holly Terminator X at 12.5 to 1 maxes the stock injector duty cycle up top. It's not going to be lean at wide open throttle from the factory, if that's what you're asking. KD, after I get blown numbers, I'm going to compound with twin GT45s and a blowers. There you go. Now you're talking. The best other guys that Richard hasn't done is the 4-liter single overhead cam. Where's my 6.2 liter? Where's Admiral at? Oh yeah, the Great Lakes area, it gets cold there. A factory injector in a factory vehicle is not going to be at 100% duty cycle. The injectors are all sized to make more power than the factory motor makes. They're oversized for their application. There's room left, so there's no way they would be at 100% duty cycle. Currently where I am, 77 degrees and a 10-kilometer breeze in Maui. Yeah, nice. What's the formula for fuel flow horsepower estimation? For injectors, it is the injector flow rate times 16. Shane, thank you very much. Did you have a question? Please ask a question. I know, Shane's a baller. Because it's the weekend. Probably because Lisa was on. Would it be worth boosting? I don't even have to finish reading the rest of your comment. Yes, it's worth boosting whatever that is. And even the Impala with a flex fuel capable 3.6. 107 in Australia. I guess you win. That's even hotter. What heads will we be using on your 396? Factory rec port heads. The ones that came on the 375 horse 396. Can you do a video on a 4.3 Vortec 4.6 V6 fuel injection with boost? I'd have to get a different fuel injection manifold for it because I don't know how to do the spider injection with boost. Oh, I doubt that the transmission can handle it, but we're not worried about that. You build the boost and the power first, and then worry about the transmission afterwards. Single over cam, 4-valve cam specs, 230, 232, 250 at 50. Those are good sized cams. Uh, 182 dome and 781s put you at 8.4. That doesn't seem like very much. When will the cam video be posted? After the cam testing is finished. The cam that I run in the big block is going to be a factory 375 horse 396 solid flat tappet camshaft. Yeah, I saw the thing on the Shark Attack. That is awful. That would be a tough way to go. Well, I don't know that there's a good one, but that would not be good. 428 Super Cobra Jet. I would be happy, honestly, with just doing a 390. I would like to do an FE 390. Shane, much appreciated, man. Yeah, 1,000 horsepower engine is not hard. 1,000 horsepower drivetrain is a pretty tall order. When you do GT40 intake testing, could you throw in an SN95 elbow test? We're running the SN95 version. Yeah, the L78 is the 375 horse 396. Or if you're super hip, it's the 65 396 in the Corvette, which was a 425 horse rated motor. I can't believe a 4.5-inch stroke spun to 7,000 RPM. Would that be a semi-reliable engine for casual road? What's casual road racing? Caleb, if you do homework on that, if you can find any difference between the 65 version and the like the 425 horse version and the 375 horse version, you will be the first one to do that because there isn't any difference. It was just a rating. Did I miss Shane's request? I'm going to zoom back here and see what it was. Oh, okay. Let's see. I didn't see anything after that. I thought that I stayed current with that. I did. I did. Yeah, the early big blocks did need a different camshaft. They needed that oiling groove, but that's not a change in the cam specs though. Yeah, yeah, the 425 horse was not. That's because I think it's because the Cobra was rated at 425 horsepower, so the Corvette had to be that much too. And then when they came out with the 427, which was actually 425 horsepower, if you believe that number too, then they could actually call that a 425 horse motor, but they just called the 396 that 1 year early, basically. 4.8 liter tweaks. There's lots of 4.8 liter stuff up. A 204, 208, you could consider that an RV cam or a truck cam. There is like 300 different videos up on the channel about 4.8 performance. There's no limit to what you can do. Cams, heads, intake manifolds, blowers, turbos, nitrous. Oh, he wanted to be the surrogate son. Okay. Where is the like button? It's right up here. Oh, exit out of the chat and it's under the video. Okay. I think that a 222 24 cam, oh, it's low lift though. The lower the lift, the less the heads are going to help. But I still think an AFR head is going to be better than a Vortec head. The LS6 and the L72 all share that same camshaft with the 396. Yeah, yeah. Building the 396, I'm finding that out. Building one that you have all of the matching number stuff, the period correct stuff is really expensive. Oh, a Z11 mystery motor. Dan, you forgot to include. I want to see a low buck Z11 mystery motor build. Wasn't the rating at different RPMs for the 396 and the Vet? It's the same motor. It's exactly the same motor. Eric, thank you very much. And this was back when they did gross ratings anyway. So they did it the way that they ran it, kind of like I'm doing, the way that you do it on the engine dyno. The net rating stuff later on is more like what we see now, where they run it in a enclosed dyno cell at some predetermined air temperature or air temperature at a factory operating water temperature with the factory tune, with the full air intake setup hooked up, with the full exhaust, including the cats, with all of the accessories. They run it the way that it is in the car. It's just not attached to the car. And they want to make sure that when they run it that way, that with all the stuff on it, that it makes that power. That's why when I run it, when we take all that stuff off, it makes more power the way that we run it, especially if we have an electric water pump and headers on it and stuff. It always makes more power than it's rated at. Kate, the LS3 intake is actually very good. Unless you want to run a lot of engine speed, then you could take advantage of some of the bigger intake manifolds, but they're all going to lose power down low compared to that LS3. And you may like that on a road race course, depending on how low you're exiting, what your corner speed is and what RPM it is. So you might miss that torque, although with a 408, it should have pretty good torque anyway. The camshaft is going to help you determine like operating speed, but on a 408 you can run a pretty good sized cam, especially if you have a valve reliefs in what I'm assuming are forged pistons anyway, because if you did a 408, you kind of have to do that. There's a dual quad Hemi sitting right over here that somebody was dyno testing, a Gen 2 one. So you're building a 69 that you'll eventually put into the Chevelle you've been wanting to get, yeah. Yeah, and somebody mentioned something about the factory tune. That's the thing, is the factory tune, as we've seen. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a programmer business. The factory tune is mild, it's conservative, so the thing will always be safe. They don't leave a whole bunch on the table. And so when you can go in and adjust that and put more timing in it, if it will take more timing, if you have the right octane, and then change the air fuel and do all that stuff and make more power, that works out pretty good. What is the best EFI torque manifold for Dart Pro 1 345? That's a big head if what you're concerned with is torque. I'm not sure if an L29 I don't think is going to be as good as a ramjet will be. I do L76, L77 blocks need a relief cut for a 4-inch crank. You're going to have to check it and see. You'll have to mock it up and find out. Yeah, 316. Richard loves the 70 to 72 Chevelles. He really likes them in good shape for like 1500. Yeah, if it could be all painted with nice interior and stuff, maybe a decent stereo and good suspension and brakes, and a trans would be good too. Just needs motor. You know, I'd like it ideally to be red with black stripes too, if it could do that with a cowl hood. K to 232, 244. Or 234. If you had more exhaust duration in that, it would rev better in that 408. Just bought a 2018 Charger 5.7. There's lots of stuff available. That has good heads on it already. A camshaft goes a long way. We did a 5.7 late model Hemi camshaft video that's up. You can see what's going on there, but there's obviously boost and all that stuff. Caleb, I've come into a horde of 427 396 super rare stuff. Oh, cool. I want to do a 427 also and a 454. I want to do the L72 and the LS6 and run all of those. Dean, where did they sell a tunnel part motor at? They didn't sell it in the United States, right? That was not ever available here. When you're going to invite us over and get your Nova running, I need to bring the Nova down here to get it running. Yes, John Wick did have a nice 70. And 70 would be the year, but 69 Rusty Yanko roller clone cost 7,500. What years did the Hemi suffer drop valves? Those are the earlier ones. I've got a factory 1970 LS6 carb. That's the 780 vacuum secondary carb, right? Isn't that the same carburetor that they used on I think they used it on the DZ302. They used it on the L76. But they might not have used it on the L76. That actually might have been a little bit different. They used it on a LT1 also. I didn't. The BTR intake wasn't available when I did that Cathedral Port shootout. Oh, now Dan, you're going to combine the piston flip and E3 spark plugs. And if you throw in some, what's the other? Oh, the Prolong stuff. You need to throw in some Prolong too, also in there. I can't remember what the offset was. I want to say it was like 65 to one side, so it was 120 or 130 total. Which LS do you think would be the best for a 71 Chevy C10? Whichever one you build. Some guys want a 4.8 and want to rev it or put boost on it. Some guys want a big giant stroker motor, and that works too. So that's all just like personality and what you want to do with your truck. This Nova that I have is a 72. And Bryce, how are you running your 4L80E? What computer are you running that with? Yeah, the 780 was also used on the Boss. Yeah, tunnel port I didn't think was ever offered for production. The Barras are just sitting in my storage area right now. The Boss 351, in my opinion, at least according to my testing, was the most powerful factory small block. Richard, did the LS4 intake perform that badly compared to other intakes? It's the worst factory intake ever made. I just installed an M1. What's an M119 on a 472? You can make 800 with a 4.8 with boost. Oh, GM makes a standalone 4L80 controller. That would be good. It'd be nice to have an overdrive trans in there. I am like with that Nova, I'm 100% against having a computer controlled transmission. I just don't like them. I don't like the computer deciding that it doesn't want to do what I'm asking it to do. Oh, so you have to manually shift it? Okay, cool. Okay, 2 more minutes. I mean, I've been on here too long already. I got camshafts to test. Man. Killing me, Smalls. Turbo size to make 800. You're going to want to make more than 800 anyway, so you should go with an S475 or a 7875 Gen 2 VS Racing turbo. We have a I think there might be a Dominator around here somewhere. I know the Dominator will control the trans, right? Dean, I'm familiar with the tunnel port stuff. I remember talking to Jay Biddle about it. He had one in his Trans Am car, and it was a 67 or 68 Mustang that had run in Trans Am. What if I'm only 100 air? I'm a 10 air. Dominator and Terminator X both? Oh, Max both have them. Okay, yeah, because the HP doesn't have it, and that's normally what we run on here. Have you ever messed with a turbo Buick? Yes, a turbo Buick 455. Does that count? Stock GM ECU, you can do that for free. But what do you have? You have to have the whole like harness and stuff, right? To make it just to make the transmission work. Seems like a lot of stuff. I'd rather just have a turbo 350 with a shift kit on it. We talked about that earlier. Okay, guys, thanks for showing up. I've got to get back, and I got to get at least 1 or 10 or 5 or some kind of cam swaps done. Thank you guys all for showing up. We'll see you all tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, next video that's going up, strokers, 408, 468, 495. Good stuff. Make sure you watch it.